continue. Yes, of course, I cannot come back without some music underlay. Yes, we continue the news review right here on Power Breakfast with the Senators Kimani Wamatangi and Boni Halwale, as well as Karanja Kabage, who is a candidate for, still considering, yes, to become a candidate for National Assembly for Njoro constituency. Now, of course, we're discussing issues to do with the Safaricom profits. Of course, that will continue creating talking points. 48 billion shillings, that's no, it's not little money by any standards.
Big money.
And we were just discussing during the break that Safaricom's revenues of 213 billion shillings for that particular year, vis-a-vis, if you make a comparison between that and Kenya's national budget, which is about 2.86 trillion. It's about
10% of
9% comfortably, 9% of the national budget, one company.
One company. And you know, Fred, that question you're asking during the break is a very relevant question to bring to the public domain. What would happen if Safaricom one day just shut down?
Yes.
If they went down, I mean, there would be chaos. And that
we've already seen the kind of chaos created if some of these services offered by this one company
simply withdrawn.
If there's a problem, even within 1-2 hours,
you know,
everything almost comes to a standstill.
Everybody is inconvenienced, and that is the misfortune of allowing just one operator to hold everything in their hands. Because can you imagine, like for example, during the electioneering, when all of a sudden they could not transmit M-Pesa anymore. I mean, it became chaotic in the
and
economy.
it's a very fundamental thing that you just mentioned there, because we now want to look at how the system that actually will be used during the elections will work.
Yes.
Most of it depends on this network,
Yeah.
and of course most of it will depend on the Safaricom network.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's assume they went down.
Before we get that,
Kenyans agree on one point. You see, in the realm of what is called IP or intellectual property, Safaricom first must be congratulated because they have become dominant, not because of the wishful thinking of Kenyans. It is because they have become more innovative than their competitors.
Yes.
That's a fact.
It's true.
And therefore, when you have acquired certain intellectual prowess, and this thing to do with things like copyright, trademark, intellectual property, patent, industrial design, and things like you know, industrial design and geographical indications. That is what you call IP. Now, when a company is a dominant player, because of its ability to create and to innovate, you don't begrudge them.
Yeah.
What you do as a government is to encourage other players. Okay, as I said, Vodafone is a key player on a global basis, but you have also other players on a global basis. Kenya has demonstrated it's a very, in fact, Kenya now is the most innovative of all African countries in terms of IP.
Okay.
Okay. Now you want to encourage many other players to come into this market, and that will be good, because this kind of profit, when they are seen on a global stage, you know what? It whets the appetite of investors
into that particular
into this particular industry, and that is what we really need to do, because we can't stop these people from creating. We cannot stop them from.
They're not doing anything illegal.
No, they're not doing anything illegal.
Yes.
The only thing is that the manifestation of their creativity and their innovation, it is now appearing to have a threat. All right, like Mheshimiwa Wamatangi said, it could even have a threat to national security, and so forth. Just in case.
But also on the question of that they're not doing anything illegal. Yes, illegal in the sense of extreme, but in terms of fair trade practices,
it could be an ethical question.
In terms of fair trade practices, you have to point out that there are things that they're not doing that are. That's what we said, Fred. You're just waiting for a few days. You are going to see Kenya breweries also declaring their profits, and you want to be asking, in fair trade practices. What Kenya breweries did in fighting the investment by South African breweries in Thika was that fair until they had to close. What they have been doing in fighting Keroche in Naivasha is that fair trade practices?
Okay.
And this also
let's come back. I don't want us to start that debate now because
he has brought in the issue of breweries. It is very exciting. Because Kenyan watched Wamatangi and his colleagues attempted to attack Keroche, that they were responsible for adulterated alcohol and so on.
Those are two different debates. Yes. The debate here is on promotion of local investment and healthy competition for the sake of a widespread growth of the economy. Yeah.
Across the country. One thing to say on this very important issue.
Okay, and then we wrap up and move on to this one as well.
The least we can expect of government is for them to encourage competitors to Safaricom to come and invest.
Sure.
Make it easy, so that then through that competition, Safaricom will be checked.
Yes.
And
away from the profits, of course, when we talk about monopolies, it's also in terms of service delivery and service providing. And Safaricom is probably the biggest network, and it will be relied upon heavily when it comes to the elections. On the front page of the Standard, we're talking about how the system works. New bold steps to avert rigging in August polls. IBC confronts fears of inflation of figures by securing digital solution which will heavily depend on this network that protects your vote at every stage from the point of casting. Each gadget has unique data for each polling station. Remember, this gadget we're talking about is the one that will be used for voter identification when you go to the polling station, to identify you as a voter before you go to vote manually. Then after that, back to the same gadget to transmit the results, heavily depending on the network and the data. Now, Senator Halwale, I know you are part of the team that worked on some of these regulations that we are now seeing coming to fruition. On the front page of the Standard, they have a description of how the system works. 8 different steps, starting from there will be 41,000 tablets, one for each of the 41,000 polling stations. So each polling station will have this particular tablet, all the way on how the clerks will be trained to use the tablets and be given extra batteries and backup power. Now it looks like a very watertight system, but one question: we've seen Safaricom, which is the biggest network we have. Last week we saw some failure for a few hours on one day, and everything, including even our own services here as a media house, were affected to some extent. What happens if Safaricom, which is the biggest service provider in terms of network, what happens if there's a fault or a slowdown or something small that happens on election day? Doesn't it therefore affect this whole system?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. Kenyans must know that when we sat as a joint committee, the gist of what we were doing is now starting to come out. When we were being blamed, for example, by the opposition side that we did not place our case sufficiently, the success of what we did is now what is starting to be seen now. The truth is, failure of Safaricom or whatever will not affect this at all. The only time we need is during the transmission of the result. Otherwise, for you to be identified as a voter, you don't need,
because that's within the local server there.
It is just on the gadget. Yes. You put your finger on it like this. It's just like when you have got your phone and you want to a particular app. You press your finger like this and the app springs up. You do not need the internet for that kind.
But for transmission of results,
it is only transmission. So the beauty is that even if Safaricom was to fail, you will have voted. I mean, you will have been identified, you will have voted, the results will have been counted, and they are there, they are ready. They are only waiting to be transmitted when the net is up. Now, in the event there is a total collapse, we can use internet forms. Yes. So we do not we do not have to worry about this. It is only one step. The only thing I want this thing to be further clearer, and we shall be asking Chebukati, is we want to know whether they are going to open a public portal, so that any member of the public, for example, in a Manyulia, and a vote has been cast in a Manyulia, can be able actually through that public portal, can be able to follow the results without necessarily having to physically be there in Manyulia. What do I mean? Members of the public, let's look at the announcement of KCB results or Kenya Secondary School certificate results. Because they have a public portal, once you key in, you are able to get the result of your child.
Yes.
We want that kind of portal so that once you key in, you are able to know at Wamatangi's polling station, this is what Raila got and this is what Uhuru got.
Yes.
He may not get anything much in my polling station.
Well, even if he gets two... How you wish.
No, I just wanted to say that in case the portal is not to have a space that will identify his, then you may as well do away with the portal from my polling.
Here's an example for Nairobi.
I did insist that Raila is going to get a lot of votes. The only reason in Kiambu, the only reason why he doesn't get is because you are thriving on the ethnic agenda. Otherwise, otherwise, if you were to use any other criteria, people will just give vote.
We use a parameter that we not able to meet. That's the parameter of past track record.
Look at what we did to the senators. So now, a parent is able to know what the child got without having to travel to Nairobi, without having to go to the local school, without going to the DEO's office.
Did you discuss that, Julie, when you're working?
Oh yes.
So that
we did.
It should be there.
Yes. Now the bottom line is then what happens? Kenyans should know that nothing is lost because the law has now stipulated that the result at the polling station is the final result. Okay? Meaning that even if transmission was delayed for 2 hours, the result which was announced that Raila got 200 votes at 2,000 votes at Marinya Primary School and Uhuru got 2 votes in Marinya Primary School of Ikolomani, that will wait until when the internet is on and then it can be announced. It cannot be changed. And for purposes of assuring the public, we at NASA, all these steps, the tallying center that we were talking about, we have created a replica of the same system, so that as IEBC officially records this, we will also be recording our own officially. The only difference will be that upon getting the result, we will announce that result to our supporters, but IEBC will reserve the right to declare the winner. Otherwise, we shall just announce the results and wait for
which will have already been announced by the returning officer.
Exactly.
I mean, the one point that I thought would need to come out, because the senator was sitting in that committee, is this one, number 2, that says that a polling station will have a maximum of 700 voters. What happens to the polling stations that have got many number of polling stations of voters in the polling station?
I think what let me answer that one first. Okay. You have a polling station which has got 3,000 registered voters. So in that area, then you create streams.
Yes, the
stream will have.
And each stream will not be allowed to have more than 700.
That's all right.
So that will be considered a polling station.
So that stream has got a presiding officer
of that stream. That's usually the norm. It is the presentation here that says, that stream is within the polling station. I mean, if you say my polling station is called Kebiko Primary School, and in Kebiko Primary School, which is my polling station, with its number has got 2 streams or 3 streams. So in that one polling station, there are 3 streams. Each of those streams has got its own gadget. The tablet and the identification kit. So I mean that is what.
But that then therefore declare because they say the 41,000 tablets each will be because of 41,000 polling stations.
Yes.
So if a stream has its own gadget, then that is considered a polling station.
For purposes
and it will have its own presiding officer.
Yes. For purposes of voting, counting votes, voting and counting of votes, a stream is a polling station.
Okay.
So that these 41 polling stations,
we can include
some of the areas where we've got more than one stream.
But you know, in technology,
yes,
you can have one tablet there, but there are 4 or 5 streams. Each one of them will feed into
interconnected.
They are going to be interconnected.
Via Bluetooth or
no problem at all. That is very simple.
And also, the reason why we have this figure of 700, it is not for purposes of technology. It is for purposes of faster facilitation of the voting process. So that the longest IQ can be, if all the 700 arrived in the morning, would be 700 people.
So one presiding officer should only deal with 700 voters?
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
At the close of number 700, they close the polling station.
And then I want voters to listen. Just go and sit somewhere, voters. You are now the shall I say, the planning committee or the think tank of a particular agent, I mean a particular candidate. If you have got 700 notes, pieces of paper, you drop 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting 700 votes is not supposed to take more than 20 minutes to count from 1 up to 700.
700.
So this then also cures this attempt to have results delayed for such a long time. Because to count from 1 up to 700 is a very short thing. So we shall therefore be expecting that by latest 9 p.m. in the evening, all the results will have come.
Yes. So the correction should be then that indeed there will not be 41,000 gadgets. There will be more to cater, because we have 41,000 polling stations.
He says that each
polling station.
Yes, I'm saying logically in the IEBC register nationally, how many polling stations do we have? And so if we have nationally 41,000 polling stations, what we are saying, maybe it's a reporting error. We should be having more than the 41,000 gadgets.
I'm not too clear.
To cover those many streams inside one polling station, because you find like most of the urban polling stations in one polling station there are 5 streams, 6 streams. If you go to Nairobi Primary here, if you come to my place in a place called Wangige, Thika Town, in Kikuyu Town,
my reading was
many
and I think IEBC will come here and explain to Kenyans, was that we originally had 35,000 polling stations, but when it was subdivided, then the streams that came out have raised it from 45 to 41, so that the streams are actually polling stations.
Yes,
I think it is important, and I like what Mheshimiwa Kalwala is saying, that IBC needs to be very, very clear. First and foremost, as far as I understand it, is that the polling station and the streams are 2 totally different things. A stream, one polling station can have 4 or 5 streams. But this portal, this gadget that you're talking about, is capable of collecting information from all these streams into one gadget.
That's the assumption.
That's why it should be explained, so that when you go to a polling station and then you don't see that gadget in your stream, then don't start shouting.
No, it must be there.
No. It cannot be seen. Assume, for example, there are 4 or 5 streams. Okay, and this is where the gadget is. Okay, it is in this room. It cannot be in every room, because mind you, if you go to the polling station,
but you have to be identified. Each and every voter has to put in the biometrics.
Once you are identified, now it is not going to be possible for everybody to be in the same place at the same time, because if it's only one and there are 5, or unless you are saying this thing will be outside,
there will be one long queue. You identify yourself.
Then you go to your stream. Because those streams are divided according to ABCD.
Because my understanding is probably that each of these gadgets should handle 700 voters.
Precisely. You are the one who is getting it right.
That's no problem.
Every stream we have a maximum of 700.
So each gadget has got his own gadget.
Yes.
That's okay.
So when you arrive, the first contact is the gadget.
Yes.
Once the gadget identifies as you as a voter, then you are given the 6 ballot papers.
Fine.
To go and vote.
Then you proceed to vote.
Isn't it?
Yeah. With that concept where you're saying that would have the gadgets interconnected using some kind of network, look at the layout of some of those streams in places. It's widespread. If you go to a primary school, one stream is on the other end, the other one's on the other end. So that interconnectivity.
And if we look at some of these steps, some of the interesting points here, like for example number 7, if the figure is higher than votes cast or number of registered voters, the results are rejected automatically.
Yes,
exactly.
Now, this is a very important point, and I'll tell you why. What is happening, and particularly in this issue of the primaries, you will find that in a particular area, you are supposed to be 1,000 voters. When the results come out, it is 2,000.
Someone has 4,000.
One cannot understand.
Exactly.
And that is a very dangerous situation.
So if that happens at the elections, that one is
I'm hoping.
But you see, then what that also implies is that, and that's why I think, Fred, you need to invite IEBC here to make this clarification in our next show. Please invite one of them. Because then what that means is that they have to assure the country that they have been completely precise. Because it can also be a source of
in as far as the register is concerned.
In as far as not only the register, that particular requirement, because you can imagine a scenario whereby they have provided 5 gadgets, and the number of voters in this particular polling station are 5,000, and so you have people voting until all the 5 gadgets are full of 700 voters each, and they have all blocked, and you have the rest of the queue of people waiting to vote, but these gadgets have blocked. What happens to the other voters? So they need to come here and explain that if indeed these are the factual steps that will be taken, that they will also assure the country that they have taken precisely very, very detailed measures to ensure that especially the numerical issues of the number of gadgets available
and the number and the debate about the number is what we're heading to now, because starting today every Kenyan is supposed, every registered voter is supposed to verify that their details have been properly captured on the voter's roll, because that register will be made public beginning today, and for the next 30 days there's that window for every voter to actually clarify if my
biggest concern is this. As a voter, I have 6 votes. Presidential, governor, senator, women rep, member of the National Assembly, and MCA. What I'm expecting to see is, let's say it is Ikolomania, polling station. I want to see that there are 6 votes. And I don't want to see there is MCA 4 votes, but the senator there is 5 or 6. Presidential must be 6. Whoever voted, nobody voted for a president but did not vote for MCA. Nobody voted for senator but not vote for governor.
It's a requirement, because as a voter I may just come and
what I mean is this. No, let me put it this way, and this should be very clear. The reason why we have a problem is that you go and find the number of votes cast for example, governor. They don't have relationship with the votes casted for everybody else. It is not possible.
But it's not compulsory that we go to a polling station, that if I have an MCA here and you have a senator and governor and a women rep, that I'm not compelled by law to vote for women. Let me finish. Because if I can go and vote for governor, I can go and vote for senator, and see among the choices of candidates for MCA I don't have a choice, then I can leave it. But I'm not compelled by law.
Question is, are you allowed to dump any of the ballot? Because like now, point number 4 here, still on the front page of the Standard, having been positively identified, the voter is given 6 ballot papers, and the system automatically crosses the name off. This makes it impossible to vote twice. So once I'm given the 6 ballot papers, and yes, I decide I'm only voting for the president, for example, am I allowed to dump the rest, or am I required, whether I vote, whether I mark it or not, am I required to put it in the
If
ballot
you ask
box?
me, I would say it's not a criminal offense
To dump?
to tear it and dump it, or whatever you do. But the point I was making is this: that no one would hold you to account in law that you went and you made 4 choices and you had been offered 6.
That's amended.
I want to say this.
To require that you
there
vote
is a
for
very
everyone.
serious mischief. Because what has been happening is that you have votes that are ghost votes. Because you have been given 6 votes. Right? I can tell you ideally, the normal human being, there will be the exception, the normal human being, having been given the 6 votes, will go and vote for virtually every one of them. Because there is one for governor, for president, governor, senator, woman rep, member of the National Assembly, and MCA. I have not seen somebody who is that, radical. They say, oh, I'm only going to vote for the president, then I go. Every one of them is given, and they're agents, by the way. So, it's an exception to the rule, if that is going to happen. But that should be very small percentage.
It will. If you looked at it this
I'm not saying that
way, because if, for example, you see, most of our voting is along ethnic lines, for example. And if you find like, or even party lines for that matter, most likely a candidate voting in Kisumu, let's say for example in rural Nyanza, would be voting for a presidential candidate, Raila. One voting in rural Kiambu would be voting for Uhuru. Those are the demographics of our politics. Yes. But for example, if you have a voter voting in a place like Lajera, for example, and there is no either one party affiliation to ethnic consideration, there is a propensity, you would say, that voter may look at both choices of the top candidates and feel they have no,
what do they do with that piece of
no
paper?
particular, and that is the technical question now. It's not a lawful
and
question.
That's what Senator wanted to answer, that
Yeah.
if I'm given my 6 ballot papers, and I don't know if you came up with the regulations for that, because some of these I believe it's IBC to come up with. If I'm given the 6 ballot papers and I decide I don't want to vote for president, I only want to vote for the MCA member of parliament, what do I do with the rest of the ballot papers? Am I allowed to dump them? Or am I required to actually fold and still place them inside, whether marked or not, inside the ballot boxes?
What my brothers Kabake and Wamatangi have been doing for the last 3 minutes is actually to split hairs. If armed with 6 ballot papers for one of the elections you are not interested, it simply means the ballot that you will have, you will not mark it.
Yes.
Because you are not interested. So you will end up depositing it when it has no choice.
So it will be
has
considered
not
a
been
spoiled vote.
So it's a spoiled ballot. Once it is a spoiled ballot because it has not identified a candidate, spoiled ballots are also counted for. They are going to be accounted for. Why I'm saying
so there's no provision for dumping ballot papers within the station.
It's not there.
Yes.
So why I was calling
not provision, but it is not, what he said is that it is not illegal. It's not been illegalized by law.
Why I was calling it splitting hairs, it is because of the statistical significance. As Kabake said, this is going to be an exception. It's only very exceptional cases that people will refuse to vote for a particular at a particular election, MCA, whatever it is. So it is not going to be statistically significant. It will be counted alongside with the other votes. Now, since the floor is
it will be counted as a what?
Yeah, spoiled vote.
It will be. How is it spoiled?
It's spoiled because it has
you're making a very important case, Senator. So what you need to do is, let's explain this well. Explain it. When you have a ballot box and ballots are spilled on the table, then you have all the ones marked. You have one that is marked wrongly. That one
not marked.
No, marked wrongly. That one is called a spoiled vote. So it's put there. If you open one that is unmarked, what is that called?
Spoiled as well.
Spoiled vote. What spoils it?
It is spoiled because it does not attributed to
what has spoiled the ballot?
So I was
unmarking. Failing to mark is not spoiling.
I think spoiled means it is not identifying.
Yes, it will be called an unmarked ballot, not a spoiled ballot.
But we don't have that statement in our English.
The innovation, the point I wanted Harold to make when he is finalizing, he is being statistical.
Okay.
That there is a column for unmarked ballots, spoiled ballots, and ballots which have been marked.
Well, we'll have to confirm that with IBC. In a short while, we'll be joining Joey Muthengi. They're making breakfast with Chef Ali, this being Thursday. They'll be showing us what exactly they're doing. But when Senator Halwale, you were about to finish your point.
Yes, I was finishing by saying that the innovation of the new voting process is in number 7, where if the figure is higher than the votes cast or number of registered voters, the results are rejected automatically. This is foolproof. This is the backbone of the security of the voting process. Give you 2 examples. The primaries that we have come from, you have seen people win with 130% and so on. It was because of lack of step 7. In the election of 2013, you saw in Tiati Primary School, where we had for 17,000 people casting votes out of 20,000 registered voters, Uhuru scored 51,000 votes. So if step 7 had been in force in 2013, the result of Tiati that gave Uhuru 51,000 votes, where 17,000 had voted, would have been rejected.
Okay. What that would be saying, what that would be saying is that it is the exercise of scrutinizing the voters register is an extremely important exercise.
That exactly is a story we want to come back and discuss, because there are also claims by the NASA brigade that they have this statement 10 million strong. Yet the voters register is only being made public today, starting today. So where exactly are they getting that kind of confidence that they are 10 million strong? We'll be having Senator Halwale answering that to us when we return. Let's now join Joey Muthengi and Chef Ali as they make breakfast. Joey, take it away.